Coming up on this Thursday edition of Newsline at Noon, protests spread across a deeply divided United States over a jury decision not to prosecute a white police officer in the fatal shooting of a black teenager. Korean fishermen stage rallies on board scores of boats off the nation's western coast, demanding stronger government action against illegal fishing by the Chinese. Plus, the President of the European Commission reveals a $400 billion investment plan aimed at kick-starting growth in the eurozone. These stories and more on Newsline at Noon.
It's noon Thursday, November 27th here in Korea. Thanks for tuning in. Live from Seoul, I'm Eoh Jin-joo.
It's very good to have you with us. I'm Mark Broome. Outrage in the United States over a grand jury's decision not to indict a white police officer in the shooting death of an African-American teenager is showing no sign of letting up.
Although protests in Ferguson have quieted down a bit as they enter a third night, demonstrations are spreading throughout the country and even across the globe. Kim Min-ji reports.
Protests are spreading across the United States over a grand jury decision not to indict a white police officer that shot and killed an unarmed black teenager in Ferguson, Missouri in August. Ferguson, where the majority of residents are black, has been at the center of violence, with a number of commercial buildings burned down and businesses looted since the announcement. Authorities have increased their presence in the area to quell the unrest. Rallies in the area continued on Wednesday as protesters marched into St. Louis City Hall. There were also demonstrations in the streets of Boston, New York, and Los Angeles.
We want to get the message across to make it clear that in the United States we have an institute, like the police institutions all across the United States are designed to protect and serve the ones that pay them, and it's not us, and that's the contradiction, because it should be us that they protect us. We're the one that pays them.
Everyone has to notice that this went wrong.
More than 400 people have been arrested across the United States. The protest movement has also spread to global cities including London and Tokyo. Meanwhile, the police officer in question, Darren Wilson, broke his silence in an exclusive interview with ABC News. The 28-year-old said he has a clean conscience because he knew he did his job right. Leslie McSpadden, the mother of victim Michael Brown, said Officer Wilson's interview was disrespectful. Attorneys for the Brown family said they would push for federal charges against Wilson, alleging the grand jury process was rigged from the start. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now, while we're on the racially charged protests in the U.S., it has emerged that Korean store owners in Ferguson have been caught up in the violence and chaos. At least 2 stores, a hair salon and a cell phone store, were burned to the ground, and several other shops owned by Korean Americans suffered varying degrees of damage and looting. A Korean American representative from the city says as of now, the amount of damage suffered by the Korean-owned businesses is estimated at more than $2 million US. Local authorities are asking owners to refrain from opening until emotions have soothed. Senior officials from Korea and Japan will meet in Seoul later on this Thursday for more talks aimed at resolving Tokyo's wartime sexual enslavement of Korean women. The meeting is the 5th of its kind and comes a matter of days after President Park Geun-hye and Prime Minister Shinzo Abe expressed hopes for tangible progress in the high-level talks on the sidelines of the APEC summit. Seoul has called on Tokyo to take sincere steps to compensate the aging victims, but Japan insists the matter was settled through a bilateral treaty in 1965. The two sides could also discuss the details of a planned trilateral foreign ministers meeting with China, which is expected to take place before the year is out.
Now, President Park Geun-hye is urging those who question her creative economy drive to have an open mind about innovation. At an exhibition on creativity in southern Seoul on this Thursday, President Park promoted her plan to pull Korea out of its economic doldrums through a growth engine based on innovative ideas and new technology. She referred to progress made, such as the expansion of startups and investments at home, and that her government's growth strategies were praised at the recent G20 summit in Brisbane, Australia. Thanking those in attendance for their interest and efforts to support the creative economy, the President vowed to continue putting her full weight of support behind startups and small to mid-sized businesses to come up with creative ideas and to commercialize developed technologies into products. Now, more women in Korea are giving up their careers because of marriage, falling pregnant, or just taking care of their kids. New data from Statistics Korea shows nearly 2 million women, especially those in their 30s and 40s, were not working as of April this year for those very reasons. Despite government efforts to help more women stay in the workforce, that figure is up 1%, or 22,000 from last year. Now, the number of Koreans applying to have their debts restructured is forecast to hit an unwelcome record high this year. Financial authorities say more than 93,000 people filed for so-called individual debtor rehabilitation in the nation's courts during the first 10 months of 2014. That's up more than 7.5% from the same period last year. Experts say the accumulation of more and more household debt means more people are finding it impossible to keep their heads above water, financially speaking. According to the Bank of Korea, the amount of household debt as of the end of September stood at roughly $950 billion US. That's up around $20 billion from the end of June. Now, Korea is going to send its first medical team to Ebola-hit Sierra Leone in the coming weeks, and making sure they are prepared for any eventuality. Officials' focus now is on what to do if one of the team catches the deadly virus during their mission. Our Kim Ji-yeon has this report.
Korea has finalized the details of a medical support team that will be sent to Ebola-hit Sierra Leone next month. Seoul's foreign ministry says it will deploy a group of 10 that includes 4 doctors and 6 nurses. They're scheduled to depart on December 13th and first head to a British Ebola treatment facility near London for training. Their medical work in Sierra Leone will start on December 29th, and it's expected that they'll stay there for 3 months.
We selected Sierra Leone due to their high number of Ebola patients. The virus is spreading at a fast pace, faster than in Liberia. And the recovery rate of those infected is also high in Sierra Leone. So we thought our help would be most effective there.
The ministry is also preparing for worst-case scenarios. In the event a team member contracts the Ebola virus, the ministry is considering transporting the victim on a U.S.-run private airliner to a facility in Europe for treatment. They would not be sent to Korea due to concerns that the long flight could worsen their condition. Once their mission in Sierra Leone is complete, all team members will be quarantined in Korea for 21 days to make sure they're Ebola-free. The ministry says it's considering sending 3 separate teams to West Africa next year, each composed of 10 people for similar efforts. Korea dispatched a team to Sierra Leone earlier this month to conduct site inspections of medical facilities there. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Right, well, let's get a check on some of the other global headlines we're following on this Thursday lunchtime here in Seoul with Eunice Kim standing by, as always, at the News Centre.
Eunice, the European Commission has unveiled a massive plan to kickstart the ailing EU economy, but it's already being met with skepticism as it will rely heavily on private investment for its funding.
That's right, Jin-joo. About 80% of the $393 billion plan will come from private investors under the outline presented by European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker. He presented that plan to his parliament on Wednesday, saying after years of fighting to restore the region's fiscal credibility, it was time to turn the page.
Today, we are adding the third point of a virtuous circle, an ambitious yet realistic investment plan for Europe. Europe needs a kickstart, and today the Commission is applying the jump cables.
Calling it the greatest effort in recent history, Juncker said at the center of the 5-year plan is boosting infrastructure, be it education, research, or transport, and welcomed governments to submit proposals for projects launchable in the next 1 to 3 years and have high socioeconomic returns. The European Investment Bank would create the $26 billion reserve and free up more in loans, though the lion's share would come from private investors, insurance companies, and pension funds. The Commission said it hopes the plan will create up to 1.3 million new jobs through the initiative. And to other news now, it's continuing tensions between Russia and the West. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has accused Moscow of violating the peace in Europe with its actions in Ukraine. During a lower house debate, Chancellor Merkel also said that NATO was not ruling out sending more support to Kiev, including the delivery of lethal weapons. But she also offered an olive branch of sorts on Wednesday, trade talks between the EU and the Russia-led economic bloc in hopes to ease the strain. President Vladimir Putin said Russia was not a threat to anyone and did not intend to get involved in geopolitical games or conflicts. A panel of EU watchdogs say Google needs to extend its users' right to be forgotten in cyberspace to international sites that end with a .com, saying it's necessary to ensure law is not sidestepped. The right to be forgotten, the option to request a delisting of unwanted online records, was established in May when the EU's Court of Justice ruled that a Spaniard had the right to have his past financial troubles erased from Google's search results. The popular engine said it has already received more than 174,000 requests for online deletions and that it has removed 41% of the links, according to its judgment.
Stay up to date on the latest news out of Korea. Connecting to our team of reporters about the issues that matter to Korea. On air, on your mobile, online. Find out more about Korea on NEWSLINE at Noon with Mark Broome and Eoh Jin-joo.
I'm Eoh Jin-joo.
Market researcher, strategy analytics, said Thursday that LG Electronics brought in about...
Samsung is offloading shares in 4 of its affiliates, another step in the group's efforts to get its house in order before a leadership shift takes place in the Samsung empire. The next move in that direction is expected to come next week. Our Eoh Jin reports on how everything is lining up.
Samsung is getting ready for a generational power transfer. With Samsung chairman Lee Gun-hee still in the hospital after suffering a heart attack in May, his 3 children are putting the group's restructuring plans into action. And Wednesday's news of Samsung selling shares in 4 of its affiliates proves just that. 46-year-old Lee Jae-yong, the chairman's only son and the vice chairman of Samsung Electronics, is widely expected to be the next in line to run the company. Now that Samsung has decided to do away with most of its defense and chemical businesses, Lee is expected to take control of the group's core profit-making units. Those are electronics, financial services, and construction. As for Eoh Jin, the chairman's eldest daughter, she'll oversee Hotel Shilla and control trade and catering units. Lee Gun-hee's youngest daughter, Lee Seo-hyun, will call the shots for the group's fashion and media branches. Samsung's entities are held together by a labyrinth of cross-shareholdings that enables the Lee family to maintain control over the group despite holding a small amount of shares. With the leadership change underway, the company is also planning to carry out a reshuffle of high-ranking executives sometime next week. The management overhaul comes as Samsung battles falling earnings, especially in its mobile division. Lee Jun, Arirang News.
Now, we won't know how the Korean economy truly fared this year until a few weeks from now, of course, but the forecasts for next year are already coming in. At least one think tank expects some movement in the positive direction. Our Shin Se-min reports on the outlook and what's expected to lead that growth.
The nation's state-run think tanks see bright things ahead of the Korean economy next year.
Driven by the stronger exports, the Korea Institute for Industrial Economics and Trade expects the economy to grow 3.7% next year, up from the 3.5% forecast for this year. The report attributes the rosy outlook to an expected recovery in domestic consumption stemming from rising exports and government stimulus measures. It says Korean exports will grow 4.5% from this year to exceed $600 billion for the first time ever. But downside risks remain. The think tank cites the strengthening of the Korean currency, a growing number of Korean companies taking their production of mobile devices and semiconductors overseas, and the Korea-China Free Trade Agreement as issues that could hamper exports. Breaking it down by industry, the automobile and semiconductor industries are expected to see an expansion of exports. Buoyed by exports of high-end offshore plants, liquefied natural gas, and container ships to foreign clients, the growth rate of the sector is forecast to hit 7%. But it won't be good news for everyone. The petrochemical and textile sectors are due to contract because of weak domestic consumption. The steel and refining industries, considered flagship exporters, are also expected to be hit with a slowdown next year. While steel is forecast to expand 9% this year, that rate will drop to 2% next year, the think tank says, because of cheaper Chinese steel entering the market. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Now, autumn foliage is not just something that's nice to look at, it also can be a stress reliever. Researchers say walking on fallen leaves and the crunchy, crisp sound that comes from it can really brighten up your day. So for those of you in Korea, why don't you go out for a stroll this afternoon? Connie Lee has the details.
We're at the tail end of autumn here in Korea, so the trees and the ground are decorated with golden yellows, deep reds, and rich brown-colored leaves. A walk outside these days can be refreshing, not only because of the cooler weather.
I like the crunching sound the leaves make when I step on them. It makes me enjoy the autumn atmosphere even more.
And the crisp sounds these leaves make when stepped on can apparently help people enjoy life more.
These sounds boost brainwaves that makes people feel invigorated and cheerful. In some countries, these crunching sounds are used to treat people with autism or depression.
For example, researchers say stepping on some fallen, dewy leaves from ginkgo trees produces a low frequency of about 300 hertz. This in turn can help ease and calm the mind. Stepping on some drier leaves at regular intervals can freshen a person up as they make an intermediate frequency sound. And if you need to clear your mind, you may want to walk across some broken, very dry leaves which produce high-frequency sound levels.
So if you're in need of a quick, stress-relieving experience, you may just get it from a simple stroll this autumn season. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
North Korea now has its first ever item on UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage list. It's the communist nation's version of the Arirang folk song. According to Korea's Cultural Heritage Administration, the song was voted onto the list by the UN Committee at UNESCO headquarters in Paris on Wednesday local time. The song is officially called the Arirang folk song in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Now, both Koreas have a version of the song on the list, as South Korea's version was added a couple of years back. And in the next few days, nongak, or traditional farmers' music, is expected to become South Korea's 17th item on this very prestigious list. Korea's largest annual design fair is now open for visitors to enjoy in Seoul for the rest of the week. This year's focus is all about innovation and creative designs that will hopefully also improve our lives. Our Park Ji-won reports.
Korea's largest annual design fair features a diverse range of innovative and creative items. For example, all of this modern light equipment is made from 3D printers. And how about this cute ribbon-shaped wine stopper? There are also furniture pieces designed specifically for small studio apartments or one-person homes. And then there's this interior LED light.
The shape is inspired by traditional white Korean porcelain pieces, yet its distinctive characteristic is that it's made of a silicone material, which makes for warmer and softer lighting.
The design fair not only showcases fresh ideas by up-and-coming designers, it also puts so-called social designs into the spotlight that aim to change society for the better through smart designs. For instance, these products were designed by children facing physical or psychological challenges. All the profits will be spent on their art education. And these pretty flower patterns applied to products like smartphone covers, mugs, and t-shirts come from paintings made by victims of Japan's wartime sexual enslavement during art therapy sessions.
I thought their paintings could be used for design pieces. Our goal is to have people view and respect them as artists, not merely as victims.
There are social issues that fit into the theme of this year's festival: well-aged life, well-balanced design.
This year's design festival attempts to see whether designers can provide solutions for creating a healthier society.
The 13th annual design fair is expected to draw tens of thousands of visitors during its 5-day run that ends Sunday. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Good afternoon, I'm Lee Ji-yeon here with your latest weather updates. Now we'll have another mild day today, although the skies will not be very clear. Most parts are covered in clouds and lingering fog, but that should clear up as the temperature rises, and it will be as mild as yesterday. So let's take a closer look at the readings for today. Now the afternoon temperature in Seoul will rise to 15, while Daegu peaks at 16 and Gwangju and Busan will top out at 17 this afternoon. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like Jeju Island will be getting up to 17, while Daejeon and Dokdo see a highs of 14, and Mount Keungang remains chilly at 6. Now it will rain tomorrow, so be sure to have an umbrella handy and dress warmly before heading out. And the cold front is approaching to the Korean peninsula, and temperature will plummet on Tuesday to -4, while the highs will only make it to 2. So we'll kick off December under freezing conditions. And looking ahead to the rest of December, the first half is forecast to be quite cold with a number of rainy days, but the later half of the month should be milder than seasonal averages. Well, that's all I have for you today. Hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and it's time to take a look at the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, those are the stories we're following on this Thursday afternoon here in Seoul.
Right, Mark and I'll be back at the same time on Friday. Have a great day.